anthems are done and the players ready to take to the field now as we go into game number 2 of 3. A reminder, it is Bangladesh who are one up in the series, won the first one at Super Sport Bar. This one, the second, they've won the toss, they've decided, as was the same formula in the previous one, they'll try and put a score on the board. One chose to bat first. Let's see how it goes. Enjoy Pink Day. It's an absolute feature day for the second Midway ODI between South Africa, the hosts, and Bangladesh here at Imperial Wanderers on the Pink Day in the cause of breast cancer awareness. What a day it's become. The 10th time we've had a Pink Day here at Wanderers. South Africa, having been impregnable early doors, they won the first 6. They've just started on Pink Day. They can't start it today because they're already one down in this series after Bangladesh's mightily impressive performance up at Supersport Park on Friday evening. Members of the crowd that can only be of a limit of 2,000 at this 28,000-seater stadium. As we heard from the CEO of John O'Leary, let's hope they make the noise of those 28,000 on this Pink Day, a special day here at Imperial Wanderers. Here are the two sides, and opening the batting with me. It's a very good morning to Sean Pollock. Good morning, Brent. I'm going to be here to view the viewers as well. 3 changes for South Africa. Same team for Bangladesh. The 3 changes to Brace Shamsi comes in the place of Marco Janssen. That's the bowling option that brought the extra spinner in this match. One replaces Peter Petlakwaai. He'll play the all-rounder role. Maybe looking for a little bit of a variation with regards to the fast bowler. Hayden Markham misses out. Thank goodness Quinton Cock has got over his sickness and is able to be part of this Pink Day. When would you ever think you'd see South Africa pick 2 spinners in a Wanderers International? Yeah, I suppose it's been a question of who's the main spinner now. I mean, Ray Shamby's got a fantastic ranking, but they've almost gone to Keshav Maharaj as the favourite choice. I think it is a good thing. I must admit, I like Shamsy, I like what he brings to the equation, and he will be hopefully for South Africa making an impact in the middle. Cricket against racism, all the players, the umpires, take a knee in the cause of Black Lives Matter. Played so well, very measured, but it was a key partnership in the first ODI. He's got an excellent record, a highest of 158 against Zimbabwe, but he's got the numbers over, almost approaching 8,000 runs, the experienced skipper. His partner, Lytton Dusk, just grows from strength to strength. This year, he's had 4 ODIs, and he's averaging 68. Is Lytton Dusk with 250s and 100. Here are his numbers. And you see 176 also against Zimbabwe, but he comes off 136 and 86 against Afghanistan, and then of course the 50 in the opening ODI down at Supersport Park on Friday evening. So they're a very important cog in this Bangladeshi wheel, and they'll look for a good start today. I don't think they'll have to be as defensive up front. I don't think there'll be as much in it for the faster bowlers in these first 5 to 10 overs. I think I know these 2 Kookaburras that are used in the one-day internationals in the modern era. So the ball plays nice and hard and seems pronounced for a longer period. That's impressive reading. He's been really good in the one-day format. I think they'll just be hoping for wickets up front, South Africa. They bowled well enough at Supersport Park in the first 10 to 15 overs. But they would just love some wickets to try and make some inroads. Lungagiri wasn't so good at Supersport Park, 1 for 75, which strangely, it's not a record he'll want to the worst figures by South African against Bangladesh. He won't want those numbers, he wants to eradicate that today. And so will the South African attack want to eradicate the memory of Friday evening. Here's Ngidi, goes to Turnip. Down the leg side, starts with a wide.
11 of them and 2 no balls in the last game, so that will be an area of concern for South Africa. Something that the bowling coach Shalom would have addressed with his unit. A little disappointing really, Polly. They're a much vaunted attack, the South African pace attack. But there's no doubt about it, they got out-bowled by the Bangladeshi pace attack. Yeah, they did, but what we will enjoy in that first delivery is that we saw a little shake through the air. That's something to work with, especially if you hit that fuller length. Clipped away, just short of mid-wicket. Just in the air for some of its passage, nearly carries to Garena. Oh, and there's an overthrow. That's a sloppy start. Just a lob back to the keeper, and it's gone through for a run. Tommy Nick he does have a tendency to plant the front foot, and that looks slightly particularly with the shape he's getting. Here's an example of how he plants the front foot and then well out in front of himself, pops it in the air. Garena, who's not with the gloves on today. Took a little bit of time until he was throw to quick contact. Maybe didn't practice his throwing as much as he should have before the game started. Have a look at this front foot. There we can see how it closes and then plays around it. And that can put you into some deep trouble, particularly with the swinging delivery. So South Africa and Ngidi will be eyeing that as a possibility to get a wicket up front. As you say, Sean, it's just been a bit of shape into the left hand of the first 2 deliveries. Now he's got Lytton Dusk, the right hander, with 2 slips in place. He'll hope to keep that swing, which will be away from the right hander. Years of age. He's becoming a sweeter timer of the ball. He's really becoming top 10 in the world white ball cricketer is Lytton Dusk. Watchful beginning as they were at Supersport Park when South Africa bowled a good delivery. They were very happy to assess the situation, assess the conditions, and build the platform that enable those to come in.
Here's the surface that you inspected earlier, Sean.
Yeah, with that footage, it looks a little bit worse than how to play. I mean, you see all the cracks, and it's almost like a bit of a jigsaw. Sure puzzle, but that's stock standard when you're playing one-day cricket here at the Wanderers. They leave not as much moisture in the surface as in the test matches, and that's why it tends to crack. So it would probably be like at end of day 2 or day 3 surface that you'd get in the test, but in general it's lovely to bat on. The ball will come on nicely, particularly in the second innings. You think after the sun's baked on it for 3 or 4 hours, and then the extra roll at the midway break. Just might have picked up, you saw Lungi handing his arm guard to mid-off. Litton Dust just requesting that the white arm guard be taken off Lungi's front arm. Makes it hard to focus on the white ball. That once happened to Kirkley Ambrose. It's what a silly thing to do. It was a very silly thing to do. It gets your fast bowlers a little bit fired up. But you can understand, I suppose, the white ball coming out, if there's something else white close to the wrist, I think he has no issue whatsoever if it was a pink one or a slightly darker one. Coped it with the little bit of extra bounce nicely, but he's very much within himself here in Ngidi. We saw him not bowling much higher than 135 in the first game, and here his speeds, the quickest ball on this over has been 135. The slowest 128, so he's hovering around that 130 mark. I wonder if he's 125 is slowest. I'm just wondering whether he's just carrying a little bit of something, because he's certainly not up to top speed. And it's interesting to know. I must admit, often in a one-day international, that first over, I was always searching for control, so I might not have pushed myself to try and bowl as quick as possible. I wanted to land it as often in the right area, and then as you get into your spell. But I'm sure, having asked him to take his wristband off and now stopped him halfway through his run-up, he must be burning up a bit of fury inside that body of his...
Gonna let one go soon. We'll see 140. The end of the opening over, 3 from it.
গোলাপের নির্যাস আর ভিটামিন ই সহ নতুন লাক্স দেয় চাঁদের মতো উজ্জ্বল চেহারা। লাক্স জি আপা, এই তো আমি এখনই পাঠাচ্ছি।
এখনই সময় আমাদের সব চাওয়াগুলোকে সম্ভব করার। সাথে আছে দেশের সবচেয়ে শক্তিশালী গ্রামীণ ফোন 4G নেটওয়ার্ক। গ্রামীণ ফোন।
দেয়ালটা পাকা করবো, তাই বিকাশ অ্যাপ দিয়ে IDNC তে টাকা জমাইতেছি নিরাপদে। মেয়াদ থাকতে পরবর্তী প্যাক কিনলেই হয়, তাহলে বাদ যাবে না কোনো এমবি। বাংলালিংকের ফাস্টেস্ট নেটওয়ার্কে উপভোগ করুন যে কোনো মেয়াদের পরবর্তী প্যাকে অব্যবহৃত ইন্টারনেট যোগ করার সুবিধা। সে দুপুরে টিফিন টাইম ঝরঝরে না হলে খাবে বলে, আমার জন্য তাই চপস্টিক ঠিক। স্বাদ ও পুষ্টির আস্থা।
One up in the series, and we'll be hoping that the kind of start they had in that first match. I think what was important, yes, runs was important, but they did not lose early wickets. You need to survive the white new ball, and if you can see the white new ball off, then runs are there to make.
There is Rabada. Goes to dust. There is some carry. That's more what South Africa want to see. A bit of pace and bounce.
I think the key here, Brett, is to analyse things as quickly as possible. Now, you see that delivery, and it looks beautiful. It's fantastic. It carries through nicely. There's some movement through the air. There's some movement off the seam. KG needs to now be aware of the length that he has to hit. It can't be back of a length. That is too short. That invariably will beat the outside edge. If you can get it a metre or 2, or even maybe 3 metres fuller, that would be ideal as he settles in.
About there.
think that's still too short.
Just because it didn't find the edge.
Yeah, it was a lesson I learned in England. I had the first test match I ever played there. I beat the bat often, and then Bob Wilmer told me, you're bowling too short. I wasn't too happy to hear it because I thought I'd done a good job. But that one, I mean, if you think about top of off, that's missed the top of the off stump height-wise by maybe half a metre to a metre. So he just wants to get a touch fuller. It's getting better and better as he goes along.
The other thing from a Bangladeshi perspective, that Litton just seems to be hanging a little bit leg side of it. It's beating him on the outside quite comfortably.
I think there is some movement here for sure. It's happening in the air, and then there is after it pitches, it goes away from the right-hander. So it will take a little bit of time, and I think it's about not only the bowlers thinking of hitting the top of the off stump, but also batters trying to leave the one which are away. Look at that. He tried to play that. Now, it's a little bit fuller. That's what you wanted, Sean, but it had to be a little bit more straighter.
But once again, no big stride, and that's another thing, Brett, is you work out the perfect length for the surface, but then also adjust it for each batter. So someone like a Marvin Atapatu went so far back in his crease that I would want to be a half metre fuller than my good length on this pitch. And Litton does the same. He doesn't get that big positive stride. Tami Iqbal does.
On the pads, clipped away, looking for the real miracle ball, the big swinger, and it's clipped away nicely for the first boundary of the morning.
Looking to make the adjustments, looking to get things in the right place. He searched for the fuller one, but unfortunately for KG Rabada, he's now fired it down the leg stump. That one probably would have clipped leg stump, but yeah, we're disappointed with that. He's a better bowler. He knows how to make those adjustments as he goes along. That's a bit of a freebie.
It's a probing opening over from Rabada. 2 done, it's 7 for none.
এখন লাইফবয় শুধু ভাইরাসের বিরুদ্ধে সুরক্ষাই না, সাথে দেবে 300 টাকা মূল্যের ডাক্তারের পরামর্শ ফ্রি। প্রতিটি প্যাকের সাথে পাবেন রবি হেলথ প্লাসের সহযোগিতায় 300 টাকা মূল্যের ডাক্তারের পরামর্শ একদম ফ্রি। একটা মিসড কল দিন এই নম্বরে। করোনা ভাইরাস থেকে সুরক্ষা আর ফ্রিতে ডাক্তারের পরামর্শ শুধু লাইফবয়। সিক্সার্স দেখতে তো ভালো, খেতেও ভালো। চকলেট পিনাট ক্যারামেল ও নোগাটের দারুণ কম্বিনেশন এলো সিক্সার্স চকলেট কোটেড বার। কোনটা এনার্জি?
গুড লাক ব্ল্যাক ওপেনের টংস্টন কার্বাইড কিট ও বিশেষ কারণে পরিষ্কার ও দ্রুত লেখার প্রতিশ্রুতি। গুড লাক ব্ল্যাক ও নালিকে যাবে কোথায়?
Ngidi trying to build up a head of steam, goes to Tamim. There's the bounce that all of South African quicks are looking for. Glove height as it spat off a length.
Yeah, that's the kind of a line and the length that the bowlers would be targeting, and it's just again that extra bounce. Good seam position, comes back in, hits him on the gloves. Maybe a touch short still could have been a little bit more fuller, invite him to drive through the cover area and just try to open the gap between the bat and the pad. Look how high it has hit in.
In the air, it's going to be out, it's going to be taken, as simple as you like. The extra bounce from Ngidi, it's caught the shoulder of the bat and it's looped to point, and that's an early strike for South Africa.
There's plenty of assistance. We saw the last one wreck the gloves. This one bounces steeply as well. And the nature of this opening partnership, Tami Iqbal is the guy who will get forward. He'll plant his front foot, look to be getting onto that front foot. And this one, that length from Ngidi is good. It bounces steeply, takes the shoulder of the bat, and you can't get an easier catch for Keshav Maharaj at backward point. Just a few steps in, waltzes in, takes it comfortably. And South Africa, they need to bounce back in this match, and they've started off well with Lungi Ngidi striking, getting there first. 7 for 1. Tami Iqbal goes for just the 1 run.
আমার এক কথায় সব বন্ধ হয়ে যায়।
আপনার এক কথায় যখন সব বন্ধ হয়ে যায়, পানির লাইনটাকে একটু বলে দিন না বন্ধ হতে।
আমার চুল পড়াটাও যদি
ভাইয়া আমার বয়সটাও
দুর্বল তাজার সাথে ছানা করা লিগার আপনাকে তাজা করবে।
সিক্সার্স দেখতে তো ভালো, খেতেও ভালো। চকলেট পিনাট ক্যারামেল ও নোগাটের দারুণ কম্বিনেশন এলো সিক্সার্স চকলেট কোটেড বার। কোনটা এনার্জি?
বিকাশের ভিসা ডেবিট কার্ড সেভ করে অ্যাড মানি করলে
100 টাকা বোনাস। Good for South Africa.
very different situation for Shakib Al Hassan. It's not about the freedom to enable him to decide to attack early. Now he's got to absorb a bit of pressure because he's out there against the new ball. But what numbers those are.
It's about how he handles himself early on. Remember, 95 runs opening partnership was in the last match, not this time around. So they're facing up to some really good stuff from the bowlers early on. And that will be the key, how to bat in that first half an hour or so. You got to pick up the right ones to leave and pick up the right ones to play. Yes, there is extra bounce. And you got to make sure that you go right behind it. Have a look at that first delivery that he plays. He knows it's coming back, but then just leaves it straight to the keeper.
More importantly, did you see the little shuffle? You got the little shuffle on for the first delivery down the wicket. We'll ask you, Atta, what will his game plan in these situations? Does he go a little bit more reserved and more watchful, or does he continue to be positive?
I think once he plays a few deliveries, then he'll get the hang of it, what needs to be done. He's an aggressive player. He's got a very aggressive mindset. Have a look at that bounce. Comes back in, and he, no man's land. He doesn't know what's going on. He just looks up and it's spooned up straight into the hands of Keshav Maharaj. Lovely delivery. Extra bite in that delivery. Extra bounce. That's the trick.
Got a thought for both of you. In South Africa's team selection, we were speaking about the unusual fact that they picked two spinners at Wanderers. Not second guessing them, but you've just seen this extra bounce in the first 2 overs, and you've got the tallest man probably in world cricket now that you've left out from Supersport Park. Wouldn't Janssen have enjoyed a bowl on this?
Yeah, I think if you said to me Janssen's first spell, South Africa would love to grab that, but I suppose it was this last 20 overs of the innings that they felt like they lacked something, and they didn't really have maybe a bit of mystery, and that's maybe why they've gone for Shamsi. But 100%, while that ball's new, it continues to bounce like we've seen from Lungi in this over, and they would have loved to have his service at 7 point.
গরম ঘাম তোমার চুলে শাইন না নষ্ট করে দেয়।
চুল সামলাবো, শাইনও করবো। সানসিল্ক ব্ল্যাক শাইন 5টি ন্যাচারাল অয়েল ফর্মুলায়, যা গরম হোক কিংবা ঘাম, এটি তোমার চুলে দেয় 24 ঘন্টা পর্যন্ত শাইন। চুল সামলাবো, শাইনও করবো।
আজব খাও চাপার জোর পাড়াও।
সুন্দর কুসুম স্যার কিনবো, তাই বিকাশ অ্যাপ দিয়া IDLC তে টাকা জমাইতাছি নিরাপদে।
Because already it's been broken here. Here's Rabada. Squirts off the outside half down towards third man. Is that your leg, Sean?
That's the length I like for KG to Lytton Dust. I think that's the perfect length. Just getting him pushing forward brings the two slips into play. And if you get that ball to misbehave or shake a little bit more, the slips are in business.
Now, if there was a chink in the Shakib armour on Friday night in that magnificent innings, it was when they went head height, throat height. Do you think we'll see a bit of that early?
I think it definitely would be part of the plans. I think that in many ways they would like the opportunity to put two men back, because he's not one of those guys just going to sway out of the way. He'll look to take it on. I'm sure they'll get one in early.
This does look a different picture altogether, just compared to the ones what we saw in the first match. That one looked a little bit more flatter. Ball was coming nicely onto that, but definitely different conditions here. Ball is moving, it's seaming. We've already spoken about the bounce, so you need to change your method, how you bat, especially early on.
In the air and taken. Playing to the onside leading edge. It's a loop away to the offside, but Garena had to make ground, and he's taken a good catch to spare for those Bangladeshis, because Shakib is gone for naught, and the visitors are in trouble at 8 for 2.
It's the extra bounce again, the hard kookaburra, the pronounced seam, and on the surface South Africa's bowlers are getting the ball to stand up sharply. It's the leading edge, And a pitch where it is bouncing, you have to try and play as straight as possible. You can't afford to be turning it to the one side. Turns it back too early, gets the leading edge. A good catch in the end by Garena. He was getting in as close as he possibly could to cut off singles. Popped over his head, he adjusted, he had the sun to deal with. And that's a massive blow for South Africa. The hero for Bangladesh from the last game. Goes without scoring, 8 for 2.
জানিস কোচ স্যার বলেছেন আজ থেকে আরো বেশি দুধ ফল আর শাকসবজি খেতে হবে এক্সট্রা পুষ্টি আইডিয়া 10 টাকা এক মগ হরলিক্সে আছে ক্যালসিয়াম যেমন দুধে থাকে আয়রন যেমন পালং শাকে ভিটামিন সি যেমন কমলায় মাত্র 10 টাকায়
চলে এসেছে কনফিডেন্স পিরিয়ডের মতো সহজ সত্যটাকে সহজ করে দেখার কিংবা দেখানোর কনফিডেন্স ফাস্টেস্ট অ্যাবজর্পশন আর ওয়েট লক টেকনোলজি নিয়ে এলো নতুন সেনোরা কনফিডেন্স পিরিয়ড হ্যান্ডেল করার জন্য 12 ঘন্টার নন-স্টপ প্রোটেকশন দুনিয়াটা তোমার প্লেগ্রাউন্ড প্লে উইথ কনফিডেন্স
সম্পূর্ণ মেটাল বডি ও ফিনিশড উডেন লুকের মতো টেক্সচার এবং 8 পয়েন্ট সুপার লকে তৈরি সময়ের অন্যতম সিকিউরড মেটাল ডোর ব্রাভো মেটাল ডোর ভিআইপি সিকিউরিটি
One day international, not an easy pitch to bat on. A lot of hard work to be done here.
Here's the numbers for Mushrikir Rahim. Very good record, approaching 7,000 runs. 232nd match. I mean, they've got so much experience in this top 6 in the Bangladesh batting lineup, and they're going to need all that experience this morning because they've got a very different situation, very different conditions from Supersport Park the other evening. An extra slip has been posted in the corner, and they've got a 7-2 offside field as Rabada goes to Mushrikir.
I think this is a challenge, and it's always going to be for Shakib Al Hasan. When he bats in the test matches, often it would have been in the middle order, and even growing up playing for Bangladesh, he was started in the middle order. It's the adjustment to go at number 3, and it's fine when you've got flatter surfaces in Bangladesh or some of the flatter surfaces around the world. But technique-wise, you'll always be challenged on, say, a quick wicket in England, South Africa or Australia. And I think he's just been caught a little bit unawares. You can't be affording to flick that as square as he was. Got to try and keep that bat as straight as possible up front.
You speak about batting techniques, Sean, and it's already noticeable where Mushrikir is looking to play Rabada from. His feet are between the two creases. He's not getting forward.
Yeah, it was something we actually used to always be aware of. Obviously, with the amount of cricket we played with Jacques Callis, we knew where he loved to score his first 5 or 10 runs in a one-day international. And he'd like to just get it down to third man, just knock it in that gully area. And there wasn't often people who squashed that area for him. There wasn't often a team that would select and put a person at a fourth slip to make sure he couldn't. And South Africa have done that. 8 for 2.
4G হ্যান্ডসেট নিয়ে দেশের সবচেয়ে শক্তিশালী গ্রামীণ ফোন 4G তে আসার এখনই সময়
কাছে আসার এই তো সময় কারণে
নতুন ক্লোজার ট্রিপল ফ্রেশ ফর্মুলার সাথে যা মুখের কোণা কোণায় পরিষ্কার করে জীবাণু থেকে সুরক্ষা দেয় প্রায় সতেজ নিঃশ্বাস 12 ঘন্টা পর্যন্ত ক্লোজার 12 ঘন্টা পর্যন্ত সতেজ নিঃশ্বাস
ফাস্টেস্ট মানি বাংলা লিগ উকলা স্পিড টেস্টে পরপর 4 বার আমরা দেশের ফাস্টেস্ট মোবাইল নেটওয়ার্ক থাকুন বাংলা লিগ ফাস্টেস্ট 4G তে
Tamim Iqbal, the captain, and the all-rounder Shakib Al Hasan, the man of the match from the other evening. Here's Ngidi, who's tasted success. There is certainly perturbing bounce for these Bangladeshi batsmen.
The average bounds in the first 5 overs in the first ODI, these are the comparisons. And have a look at that. Have a look at keep your eye on how far it is from above the stumps. Just a bit more this time around. And that's the reason why bowlers have decided to just pitch it in that good length area to ensure that if they get a steep bounce and then they're in business. They've already picked up 2 wickets.
Good leave. Then we're going to see more of that as they try and rebuild this partnership.
I think if you look closely at how these two bat, Liton Kumar Das and Mushrikir Rahim, they don't really come and try to reach for the ball. They're waiting in the crease. But if you look at what did Shakib Al Hasan and Tamim Iqbal did, they come and reach out and try to go and try to play off the front foot, which is at times difficult, especially in these conditions.
Beauty, beauty. Caught him on the crease and there was a hint of movement.
Yeah, I think South Africa have adjusted nicely. Got the initial bonus of picking up those early wickets, but they'll be feeling really comfortable about the job at hand now. They realise there's assistance. You saw in the last game a lot of seeing positions from Lungi and trying to get the ball to nip back at the right-handers, but have a look at that one. He's trying to shape that away. He wants to bring those slips. He wants to get the away movement. So it's a different game plan. Not trying to cramp them up for space. It's now trying to take wickets. And there's enough in the surface for that game plan to be backed up.
Good hand, good hand. Importantly, the left-hand side of the backward point fielder, Maharaj. And that's good too, because whilst they obviously mindful they're 2 down, they want to keep that board ticking, and sharpness on the single, preventing it. It's good cricket from South Africa.
Always good, particularly to your right-hand batsman when you're right-arm seamer, to have a left-hander at backward point. For that exact reason, strong arm goes out. Often a lot of balls go behind square, get squirted in that area. And that was a good stop. Keep the pressure on the batters.
The counter to that, Sean, is often, and we're going back to one of the best there ever is in the field, John T. Rhodes. He would be at an angle, almost gully angle, so that he would be always going to his right, and then the ability to dive to his right, get to his knees, and be up in the momentum or going towards the non-striker's end.
I used to call him the rubber man, because as he went down, he almost like he bounced straight up. But yeah, he was just brilliant. I mean, he took fielding to the next level. It was probably as good as I would have to define it as a stopper. He didn't get past the goalkeeper at backward point. There might have been better guys at picking up the ball and hitting the stumps, but as far as a stopper in that position, he was brilliant.
The top and 4. There were cries of catch it, and it went close to extra cover, but it was hit very sweetly for a boundary. It's 12 for 2.
আপু নুডলস খাবা? কোরিয়ান।
তোর তো সবকিছুই কোরিয়ান।
তোমার না ঝাল পছন্দ?
সুপার রেড হট চিলি আর অসম কোরিয়ান রেসিপিতে তৈরি মিস্টার নুডলসের কোরিয়ান সুপার স্পাইসি নুডলসে আছে দারুণ স্বাদ আর চরম ঝাল। মিস্টার নুডলস।
বিকাশে ভিসা ডেবিট কার্ড সেভ করে অ্যাড মানি করলে 100 টাকা বোনাস।
স্বপ্নগুলো ছড়িয়ে দিতে হয়, একদিন ওরাও লিখবে ওদের গল্প উড়ে যাওয়ার। বসুন্ধরা খাতা, লেখো তোমার ভবিষ্যৎ।
যেখান থেকে খুশি বেচা কেনা করার এখনই সময়।
A bit of an issue about it. I was trying to put it behind him.
Here's Rabada.
And have a look at how he played that delivery. It was close onto the stumps, but he realized that it's bouncing, so he just lets it go over the top of the stumps. So this is good technique from Mushfiqur Rahim. Have a look at that. That's not by much, but still decides to leave it. And when you see it going straight to the keeper without touching the stump, that's a good lead.
In the air, Brown past backward point. There's the dive. That's a very good piece of fielding. They're back for 2.
Yeah, that's brilliant from Lungi. He'll be a little bit hot under the collar, having bowled some overs, but still the energy to get around and not only to make the initial save, but have the presence of mind to make the adjusted save as well. Short and wide, that one. You want to be tighter on the stumps.
The default, as Sean said earlier, is to go back of a length, but on this surface with that extra bounce, you want to be fuller. They're just inspecting. There's the save. And they've put that to bed quickly.
Yeah, you talked about the technique and the way that delivery by Mr. Fakur was left, and it's not something that you'd have grown up doing much of in Bangladesh, because you can't at times trust the bounce. A lot of Australian batsmen will leave the ball in this fashion, so have a look. It's a decent length delivery, but you take your bat up and out the way. And that's something that you only really learn on bouncy surfaces, whereas on the flatter ones you often see guys just pull it like a curtain out the way and let the ball go through. So that's what you do learn as you go around the world, just to trust different techniques, and you can trust the bounce at the Wanderers. It's a foolish length. That's probably hitting the top of off in Bangladesh. You're looking to play at that. But to take the bat way out of the way, often like someone like Matthew Hayden used to do.
Clipped away with not a great deal of conviction by Mushrikar. Thought it might have just been thigh pad, wasn't the case. Again, he indicates it's the extra bounce that's unsettling.
I think what has happened and helped the Bangladesh team to get used to this condition is that they've started to play on green top wickets in domestic competition for the last couple of years. And that has helped them grow in confidence and get used to these conditions and get used to the bounce. Even in Mirpur, home of cricket in Dhaka, end of the over, 15 for 2.
গোলাপি নির্যাস আর ভিটামিন ই সহ নতুন লাক্স দেয় চাঁদের মতো উজ্জ্বল চেহারা। লাক্স
বিকাশের ভিসা ডেবিট কার্ড সেভ করে অ্যাড মানি করলে
100 টাকা বোনাস।
চঞ্চল ভাই,
দেখা যাচ্ছে না বলে নেই নাকি? পানিতে থাকা আয়রন ও সীসা ফোটালেও যায় না, দেখাও যায় না।
পিউরিট ক্লাসিক দূর করে ভাইরাস, ব্যাকটেরিয়া এবং নতুন যুগের দূষণ।
Bangladesh right on top, way ahead. South Africa languishing in the depths. It's a big sample size now. It's 11 matches played by the home side. Bangladesh playing 16. South Africa desperately need points. India, the hosts, they're in. So effectively it would be top 8, but it's going to be top 7 you're probably going to have to be in to automatically qualify for that World Cup without having to go through a very testing and nerve-wracking qualifying stage.
Sitting right at the top of the points table, Brett.
You're saying that with the chest out, a little bit of pride.
A lot of pride.
Yeah. Just happening between overs, just a bit of a knee spray for Lungi and Gidi. That's worrying for South Africa. Their big fast bowler, who is bedeviled by injury. He's always seemingly troubled with a couple of games off at regular intervals. Here he goes. And Sean, we were questioning his speeds being down. That may be the explanation. Just got a knee problem.
Yeah, it could have been through the dive though, where he went to save that one in the boundary. There's a good chance. I mean, he's left a bit of a divot there as I look down onto the ground, so the contact might have been a bit painful. And sometimes it's almost just like when you get a poke in the eye, your eye waters. It's the same thing with the knee. If you land on it in a bad way or fashion, there, it looks like it just hits, and that might just cause a bit of an issue.
Fair comment. Oh, they're turning it again, looking to go square, leading edge. This time it falls safely.
Yeah, we saw earlier on Shakib Al Hasan getting dismissed in that similar kind of fashion, trying to close the face of the bat. So I think that they need to have a bit of a chat in between. I see now both players getting in the middle. Just again, it's the bounce. Have a look at that, just the bottom of the handle. But instead of trying to close the face of the bat, much better way to cope up with these kind of deliveries if you present the full face of the bat. Yes, it is high, but that will not allow the ball to go towards the fielder. But once you're trying to just close the face of the bat, you never know. Why take that chance?
Super delivery. Super delivery. Bit of movement and the bounce of which we speak.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Maybe it could be a touch fuller. I know I'm searching for perfection here, but you think if you're going to pick up wickets, it's a great length, but it's just too short. You can see the movement will just make it beat the outside edge rather than find that edge. And it's only a foot, maybe a foot to a meter, and it'll make a big difference. We often harp on it up here in the commentary box. We often harp.
We always do, searching for that perfection. It's also where Mushfiqur's batting. He's really between the creases. Oh, over the top. I think there was a hand there. Again, the stroke played, this time on the shortness of length. And they're coming back for a third.
That could have easily been another wicket here. And he reached out, it was so wide. That's what the pressure can do to you. Have a look at this delivery. Look how wide that is. Should have been left alone. He's reaching out, he's lucky, very lucky to survive.
Yeah, there's two options there. You've got to go at it really hard, give it a proper smack, or else you've got to leave it alone. Not the tallest man, Garena, but he tried his best. It's almost as if he knew exactly what Atta was saying, that it was too wide, and he was pulling out of the shot. He didn't go at it hard, and he was thinking of it, and then at the last minute goes, oh, I shouldn't be playing at it, and it almost hit the bat rather than the bat hitting the ball.
I think he was caught in two minds.
Very much so. Pulled away beautifully, waiting on the back foot. That'll be 4 through mid-wicket. Again a bit short from Ngidi, and that's a confidence-building boundary from Littendas.
Yeah, that's a fantastic shot, and so important that you play it, because as the South African bowlers, they know there's extra bounce and they can just run in and bang back of a length, but they know there's someone that'll take them on if it's dragged too short. Just gives them something to think about. So as far as the counter punch goes, this is a fantastic option and perfectly executed.
Situation may be good for South Africa, 2 down, but I'm pretty sure Temba Bavuma will be sitting there going, guys, let's just see if they can drive. Try and drive on this pitch, because that's where the bounce and the movement will find the edge. Turned away through the onside, ground to be made by Rabada. The slide is out, it's just the one. Big over that for Bangladesh. 8 from it, 7 done, 23 for 2.
সানসিল্ক পিঙ্ক ব্যবহারে চুল দেখার ঘন আর ঘন চুলের সব পসিবল। ঘন চুলে হয়ে যাও পপুলার অথবা পাওয়ারফুল কিংবা দারুণ সুন্দর, ঘন চুলের সব হেয়ারস্টাইল পসিবল। সানসিল্ক পিঙ্ক থিক অ্যান্ড লং উইথ কেরাটিন ইয়োগার্ট, চুলকে দেখায় ঘন। এখন এগিয়ে যাও ঘন চুলে।
যাবেন না কোথায়? গ্রামীণ ফোন 4G তে এক্ষুনি।
স্লো ইন্টারনেট আর নয়, 4G হ্যান্ডসেট নিয়ে দেশের সবচেয়ে শক্তিশালী গ্রামীণ ফোন 4G তে আসার এখনই সময়। গ্রামীণ ফোন।
গোলাপি নির্যাস আর ভিটামিন ই সহ নতুন লাক্স দেয় চাঁদের মতো উজ্জ্বল চেহারা। লাক্স।
দেয়ালটা পাকা করবো, তাই বিকাশ অ্যাপ দিয়ে IDLC তে টাকা জমাইতেছি নিরাপদে।
Brett, that's a fantastic start this morning by Kagiso Rabada and Lungi Ngidi setting the tone for South Africa. They're finding themselves 23 for 2 after 7 overs. Oh, that looks like another wicket. Yeah, it's definitely the glove. This is a superb start for South Africa this morning. KG Rabada. So the intent from ball 1. Yeah, KG Rabada has been all over Littendas this morning. This time a little bit closer to the body. He tries to evade it, but he doesn't drop the hands. It just brushes the gloves on the way through, and a comfortable catch. Rabada gets his second wicket, and Bangladesh now 23 for 3.
সিক্সার্স দেখতে তো ভালো, খেতেও ভালো। চকলেট পিনাট ক্যারামেল ও নোগাটের দারুণ কম্বিনেশন এলো সিক্সার্স চকলেট কোটেড বার। পুরো এনার্জি।
কোমল এবং নমনীয়, তবুও নির্ভরযোগ্য সঙ্গী, যে দূর করে অনাকাঙ্ক্ষিত সব কিছু। এসে গেল বসুন্ধরা 3-ply ফেশিয়াল টিস্যু। সফটনেস, স্ট্রেংথ এবং অ্যাবসর্পশনের 3 লেয়ার।
নো এমএসজি মানে টেস্টিং সল্ট নেই। বাচ্চার জন্য এটাই তো বেস্ট, তাই আমার কাছে চপস্টিক ঠিক আছে। স্বাদ ও স্বাস্থ্য রাখতে ঠিক টেস্টিং সল্ট মুক্ত চপস্টিক।
নন স্টপ স্পিনিং করার এখনই সময়।
Yasser Ali, new man to the crease. Yeah, I really like this intent by KG Rabada. He's running in hard today, setting the tone for his team. making life real uncomfortable for the Bangladesh batters. They like this leg he's operating it, trying to get out of the way, but can't get the gloves out the way. That's as easy as going to get from Quinton de Kock.
It's going to be a different type of challenge for Yasser Ali today. Played really well in partnership with Shakib Al Hassan at Supersport Park during the first ODI of the series, but coming in at 23 for 3 today. It's going to present a different challenge.
Oh dear! Put down! Needed it, need this pressure to continue, but not been able to keep a hold of that. Yanaman Milan. Mushfiqu. Correction, Yasser Ali escapes.
He's not at area again, KJ Rabada, slightly fuller, not quite there, gone for the big drive. Wow. I feel that should have been taken by Yanaman Milan at first slip. Oh, almost waited for Temba to go for it. And that's always the danger. Just watch a wide ball by KG, but that's always the danger when you start out at the Wanderers, because there's an extra bit of bounce. As a batting unit, you have to adjust, you have to get used to that. So you have to allow yourself to get in, but I think South Africa has really set a good tone here.
Adrian Holstock and Maria Erasmus, the two men out in the middle, officiating. The decision, that's wide again. First one for height, that one too far outside off. Yeah, not be called upon too much in terms of making LBW decision. Bounce also important for the umpires as they consider. Just doesn't pick that up, and I don't know if he's looking towards Bavuma, who's at second, because he hasn't gone for that really. He's sort of trying to cover Bavuma first of all, and then realizes he's got to go for the catch, and so he kind of ends up grabbing at it.
Yeah, it's a late decision, isn't it? It's a late decision from Yanaman Milan to go for the catch.
I felt coast where you play. You're also important in getting accustomed to conditions and what happens in the field too. It's 27 for 3.
এখন কি নিচ্ছি?
টয়লেট ক্লিনার।
কোনটা?
ওই তো সব সময় যেটা নেই।
তো টয়লেট থেকে আর দুর্গন্ধ আসবে না?
ঠিক বলেছো, দুর্গন্ধের জন্য চাই ডমেক্স। দুর্গন্ধের সাথে লড়াইয়ের জন্য ডমেক্সের ফ্রেশ ওয়ার টেকনোলজি, যা টয়লেটকে রাখে জীবাণু থেকে সুরক্ষিত আর ফ্রেশ 100 ফ্ল্যাশ পর্যন্ত। তাই নিন ডমেক্স।
গুড লাক ব্ল্যাক ওপেনের টাংস্টান কার্বাইড টিপ ও বিশেষ কারণে পরিষ্কার ও দ্রুত লেখার প্রতিশ্রুতি। গুড লাক ব্ল্যাক না লিখে যাবে কোথায়?
বাবা মায়ের জন্য নিব তো, ক্লিক ছাড়া তো অন্য কোনো ফ্যানে ভরসা হয় না।
কপার কয়েলের সাথে অ্যারোডাইনামিক প্লেটের ক্লিক ফ্যান, টিকে বছরের পর বছর। ক্লিক ফ্যান, প্রশান্তির হাওয়া ছড়িয়ে যাবে সবখানে।
বিকাশের ভিসা ডেবিট কার্ড।
You were talking about different conditions, Pom playing coastal, playing on the high felt. Up here you always feel that slippers will always be in play. The field will always be a little bit more square because of the pace and bounce. Let's just have a look at this. This is the average bounce in the first 8 overs. Up here, the Wanderers, you'll always find that it's a little bit steeper than what it is everywhere else in the country. So as a batting unit, you'll be really careful in how you adjust your stroke making. We've seen a couple of those wickets with a slightly angled bat got themselves into trouble with the extra bounce today.
Yeah, I think you want to keep your bat as straight as possible for as long as possible when you're playing on the high felt. So the leading edge from Shakib Al Hassan, just trying to turn one to the leg side. But the South African bowlers, a lot of credit's got to go to them. They build up a head of steam here this morning, Ngidi and Rabada in particular.
It makes the world of difference, though, when the potency of your attack up at the front can be effective. And South Africa, and I'll look to Ngidi particularly, so even in times where he's been expensive at the start of one-day games for South Africa, what often would happen is he might go for somebody who'll get two. And because he does that, you set your opposition back. They can't set their stall out and then look to try and damage you at the back end. They're trying to kind of resurrect an innings pretty much all the way through. And it also, what it does is it accounts for an issue that South Africa for years and years have had, which is the back end, where it's pretty difficult to contain sides, and it's not often you have a South African side win the last 10 overs when a side has wickets in hand. Go back to Vern was playing. I'm not sure if I'd go so far as to when you're playing, Ash, but so often the chit-chat would be, oh, what's going to happen with these last 10 overs? And in the games where South Africa was successful, and they were for a long time, what would happen is they'd blow sides away and the 10 at the back wouldn't be needed. And sometimes you think, well, the good thing that's going on, which is wickets up at the front, means there's never any opportunity to get an experience of bowling at the back end. So should the time come where a side does keep it together and does make a platform and then try and play at the back, didn't matter who was bowling, they weren't accustomed to it, and they'd go to all parts.
Yeah, it's a fantastic point you're making there, Pom. That's why I was such a massive believer of striking up front. You set the opposition team so far back because they've got to rebuild and never get back into the game. It also allows your part-time bowlers to get into the game if you so then obviously want to utilize them.
Yeah, fabulous start here, and that's not good as you're batting to see one stay down when mostly there's been a lot of bounce. It's 28 for 3.
বিকাশে ভিসা ডেবিট কার্ড সেভ করে অ্যাড মানি করলে
100 টাকা বোনাস।
কোমল এবং নমনীয় তবুও নির্ভরযোগ্য সঙ্গী যে দূর করে অনাকাঙ্ক্ষিত সবকিছু। এসে গেল বসুন্ধরা 3-ply ফেশিয়াল টিস্যু। সফটনেস, স্ট্রেংথ এবং অ্যাবসর্পশনের 3 লেয়ার।
ক্যালসিয়াম, আয়রন, আয়োডিন দরকারি সব পুষ্টি উপাদান চপস্টিকে আছে, আর ডিম ও সবজি দিয়েই তো রাখি হেলথের বিচারে, তাই চপস্টিকই ঠিকঠাক। স্বাদ ও স্বাস্থ্য রাখতে ঠিক টেস্টিং সল্ট মুক্ত চপস্টিক। বিকাশে ভিসা ডেবিট কার্ড সেভ করে অ্যাড মানি করলে
100 টাকা বোনাস।
Oh, there's a shout. There's a shout. There's a shout from Quinton de Kock. He thinks there's something on that. Umpire, I reckon, was about to give it wide. He's now waiting to see if they're going to go upstairs. And the clock counts down. There we go. We're going up.
Yeah, he did look like he was shaping to indicate wide, was umpire Aiden Holstock. And then there was, I think there was more of an appeal from behind the stumps than from KG Rabada. Quinton de Kock seemed really interested.
Here we go. Here we go. Nada.
Okay, I'm satisfied. There's no bet involved. Adrian, you can stay with your original decision of not out. Stand by. You're on screen. Signal now.
Flat line, flat line, flat line. And there's the signal. He had already turned, you know, he was going to give it wide. It was that wide. Quinton de Kock will take one on the chin for that one. He's the one went up. He's the one convinced Bavuma to go upstairs. Bold. Good leave. And I was listening to Sean Pollock talking about the way guys leave on pitches that bounce quite a lot. and Mushfiqur Rahim doing it exactly right. The dismissal of Litton Das, where he's trying to get under the ball rather than above it. He too, instead of just kind of sway out the way, need to get the hands go down. And it's where he made his error.
Yeah, Mushfiqur Rahim and his trigger movement uses the crease a little bit more, goes a little bit deeper into the crease, so he allows himself a little bit more time. It's a very good technique when you're playing on the high felt on pitches with a bit more bounce. But from a South African point of view, and I'd like to bring Vernon in on this one, 29-30 for 3, and South Africa only operating with one slip at the moment. KG is bowling a good spell. There's a second slip coming now for the new batsman, which is Yasser Ali, but at 29 for 3, ball still quite hard. Doing a bit, Vernon?
Yeah, thanks, Ash. I certainly think that you do want to carry your slippers for a little bit longer, especially with the in-batter as well, because if you get him out, you're really opening up the door on both ends. And by mentioning in-batter, I don't even think he's in at the moment. I think he's also trying to find his way, so you certainly want to have that attacking mindset of carrying the slips for a little bit longer, perhaps bowling these two bowlers an extra over each. If you blow them 5 down here, they'll be in deeper trouble.
I think that's exactly where I was intending to go. Mushfiqur Rahim might be the senior batsman for Bangladesh. He might be the experienced campaigner, but by no means is he settled at the crease with 8 off 19. Bit of movement there. And so you want to get the main man, or you want to get the most experienced man, you want to get rid of him as well.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, As, because every so now and again you lose a slip, he gets a little outside edge, he gets away and he gets himself in. And by carrying that extra slip, you're almost putting pressure on him to make a play.
Marker in there at second slip. Subfielder, key position. He is a slipper. Nkiti, I think, is the man who's off. It's 30 for 3.
Face করো সারাদিন ড্যাব 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 মিস করো ফান আর কতদিন ড্যাব ড্যাব
অয়েলি স্কিন এই নে পন্ডস অয়েল কন্ট্রোল ফেস ওয়াশ
এর সিলিকা বিটস টেকনোলজি ত্বকের গভীরে গিয়ে অয়েল শুধু ক্লিনই করে না, ভেতর থেকে কন্ট্রোলও করে। অয়েল ফ্রি তো টেনশন ফ্রি।
সিক্সার্স দেখতে তো ভালো, খেতেও ভালো। চকলেট পিনাট ক্যারামেল ও নোগাটের দারুণ কম্বিনেশন এলো সিক্সার্স চকলেট কোটেড বার। কোনটা এনার্জি?
বিকাশে ভিসা ডেবিট কার্ড সেভ করে অ্যাড মানি করলে 100 টাকা বোনাস।
Wonders, there's what I was talking about, and trying to get out the way rather than just sway. You need to get the hands down, and that needed to be taken. If it was, then 4 down, it's even worse a position, but in terms of South Africa, they'd be that much happier. Needed to make a statement, needed to respond to how good Bangladesh were in game 1. They were so good, superior. Here's Parnell. Starts leg side. The follow-up, always important. In the fielding side, what you get is a tempo set by those that start up, and when it is set, as a change bowler, you've got to ensure when it's good, you carry it on. And that's the case here.
Absolutely, and Wayne Parnell is back into international cricket, back into the Saudi side for South Africa. Fairly good record there, but he needs to continue this good start by the Proteas. Once again, we saw one in the last over from the same end, from the corner drive end. Lungi Ngidi going past the outside edge with one keeping low, possibly just hitting a crack outside or stump, and Wayne Parnell seems to have hit that same spot.
Fortunate it's not on the line of the stumps. But we have seen a few keep low as well. Tell you what, that's the last thing you need is a batter pump.
I don't worry about batters. Ever.
Yeah, it's so important for Wayne Pannell to start well here. Real good work being done by the two opening bowlers. As you can see, it just hits the crack and stay down. It certainly makes for interesting batting a little bit later on.
So you got to get the measure of it, and it doesn't generally get worse. And the grass that's on there is to kind of hold it together and try and make sure that that sort of thing doesn't happen. And there's a bounce stuff. I'm loath to leave too much on here, because you add the bounce to that, then it becomes rather difficult for the batters.
When you've played here a few times and you've seen those cracks on a few occasions with the grass on the end of the crack, you know as a player that it plays better than it looks. But when you haven't been here that many times and you know there's going to be a bounce and you see all these cracks with the green grass on it, you know, as a batter, just looking down at the surface, sometimes you can think, oh, it's going to be a lot going on here.
Unless you wear one or two as.
Yeah, I reckon bowlers always happy turning up at the Wanderers. Always, always. Yeah, didn't carry to fine leg. Decent start for Parnell, just the 33.
রাসেল, তোমার থেকে সবসময় গ্ল্যাক্সোস ডি কিনি, আর তোমার ভাইকে এটা কি দিয়েছো?
আবার গ্ল্যাক্সোস ডি এখন গ্লুকোম্যাক্স ডি।
কি বল?
ও ঠিকই বলেছে।
সাকিব,
এবার নাম্বার 1 অলরাউন্ডারের কাছেই শোনেন, গ্ল্যাক্সোস ডি এখন গ্লুকোম্যাক্স ডি। এটাই নাম্বার 1 গ্লুকোজ ব্র্যান্ড।
আচ্ছা
রাসেল, আমাকেও একটা দাও। দেশের 1 নাম্বার গ্লুকোজ ব্র্যান্ড গ্ল্যাক্সোস ডি এখন গ্লুকোম্যাক্স ডি।
গোলাপি নির্যাস আর ভিটামিন ই সহ নতুন লাক্স দেয় চাঁদের মতো উজ্জ্বল চেহারা। লাক্স।
The issue for South Africa in game number 1 is they started things okay, and yes, the plan was to be short, to make it uncomfortable for the Bangladeshi openers. They did that, but what happened is that they bided their time, and they were predominantly short actually in ODI number 1 at the start of the game. And you look at the grouping today, it's more in the length area where you'd expect that there'd be difficulty, and the bounce of the conditions would make it difficult just to defend, never mind anything else. So it's not a case of just getting out the way, it's how do you play those, and it's yielded 3 wickets as well.
Absolutely, and as a batter, when you see the ball pitched shorter of a length, as we saw at Supersport Park in the first ODI, naturally you're playing off the back foot, you have a little bit more time to see the ball, see the bounce and let it go by, whereas when you've dragged forward and you get that steep bounce, that's tough.
Yeah, especially when you play against subcontinent teams as well. I always make the point that it's the bounce of a fuller length that gets them into trouble, because they've got low hands and because they trust their hands playing on lower surfaces in the subcontinent. With the extra bit of bounce in South Africa, that's where they really get themselves into trouble.
And then when 1 or 2 stays low like that, a lot of demons through the mind.
Yeah, and fighting against instinct is the toughest thing, isn't it? For batters, and by that I mean, you're talking low hands, I'm talking areas in terms of what the length is, where they feel they can throw their hands at the ball, where they feel they can hit through the line. And that sort of length is similar here at the Wanderers. In the subcontinent, they might drive, but here at the Wanderers, they're sort of going forward and having to defend it then. And so trying to get that balance as they try to adjust to conditions, it's very difficult.
Absolutely, Paul, and I think that's where your batting consultants become so more important, understanding the different conditions that you find yourself in, understanding the different patterns of play. At the Wanderers, we all know you've got to respect that new ball, get through the new ball phase. I think South Africa's done very well here.
Up in the air, gone! There's another bounce again. It's Rabada again.
Yeah, the extra over has worked for South Africa. Rabada into his 6th over on his last ball. Yasir Ali, he's had a great game the last one, but he's up against a fierce KJ Rabada. It's the bounce on this occasion, hands up in the air again. And that's as easy as they're going to come for Kesef Maharaj.
Look at the joy on the face there. Points, I think, to his captain. Thank you for giving me that extra over, captain. Gets his 3rd wicket now. KJ Rabada has been on fire this morning. Yasir Ali's got to go for 2. Bangladesh 34 for 4.
সুন্দর কুসুম স্যার কিনবো, তাই বিকাশ অ্যাপ দিয়া আইডিএলসি তে টাকা জমাইতাছি নিরাপদে।
চলে এসেছে কনফিডেন্স। পিরিয়ডের মতো সহজ সত্যটাকে সহজ করে দেখার কিংবা দেখানোর কনফিডেন্স। ফাস্টেস্ট অ্যাবজর্পশন আর ওয়েট লক টেকনোলজি নিয়ে এলো নতুন সেনোরা কনফিডেন্স। পিরিয়ড হ্যান্ডেল করার জন্য 12 ঘন্টার নন স্টপ প্রোটেকশন। দুনিয়াটা তোমার প্লেগ্রাউন্ড, প্লে উইথ কনফিডেন্স।
ভিটামিন ই সহ
Afif Hussain, youngster, just 22 years old and young in his career as well, but decent in terms of the way he plays, his attitude, stroke play too, likes to play it, different conditions here, different situation. He's got to try and pull the side out of trouble, try and bat a long time. Prefers, of course, to come in when the stage has been set, groundwork been done. Got to do it himself today.
Yeah, promising young player for Bangladesh. Exciting stroke player. But a different examination here today.
Parnell in on the act. Issue always was whether it was in line, and it was. Right in line, plumb as they come. Yeah, that's what it means to him. Back in international colours and back in the wickets. What's important particularly there and why he'd be so happy, yes, the wicket, but because of all that's gone before, you don't want to be that guy. It turns up and suddenly runs begin to flow. You got to keep the pressure on. You got to keep your side, your opposition, under pressure. Bowling, top work, fabulous start for Parnell. 35 for 5.
আচ্ছা, ইউনিভার্সিটি ইলেকশনে শুধু ছেলেরাই দাঁড়ায়, এটা কে বদলাবে?